Hi everybody, Rick Risner here with Student Legal Services. I hope you're enjoying our videos. Today I want to talk to you about tips for renting an apartment or a house. And I'd like to begin by explaining exactly what a lease is. A lease is a document that you sign and a landlord signs, and it details the obligations of your landlord and your obligations as a tenant during the time you're going to be living in the rental property. Before you sign a lease, you want to make sure that you read it and thoroughly understand it before you sign it. If you can, you should get a copy of it and bring it to our office. Let us take a look at it. Make sure there's nothing in there that you shouldn't be signing, and make sure that you fully understand what your obligations are under the terms of the lease. If it's not possible to get it to us before you sign it, you're always welcome to bring a copy to our office after you sign it. Let us take a look at it. Make sure you understand exactly, again, what your obligations are. Several of the things that you want to keep an eye out when you're reviewing a lease are things such as who's going to be responsible for lawn care if you're renting a house, snow removal, again, if you're renting a house. You're also going to need typically to pay a security deposit to the landlord before you move in. When you paid the security deposit, the landlord will give you a receipt. You're going to want to keep that in a safe place because that's a record that you did pay the security deposit, the date that you paid it, and the amount of the security deposit that you paid. I always recommend that when you get your receipt that you scan it and email it to yourself, so that down the road, if you do need to find the receipt, you know exactly where a copy is if you cannot find the original. Other things to watch out for in the lease is, are you renting an entire apartment or just a bedroom with community use of a main living area? If you and a group of friends are renting the entire apartment, that should be specified in the lease. One thing that we encounter often in this area around the University of Toledo is you're often signing a lease just for your particular bedroom with several other co-tenants, and you also get to enjoy the communal areas such as the kitchen, living room. So you're going to want to make sure that you understand exactly what you're getting. It's also a good idea before you sign a lease to Google the apartment company where you're going to be renting. See if there are multiple complaints against the landlord where people say they're not keeping up with snow removal or they're not keeping up with repairs. You can typically find those kind of things by doing a Google search. You're also going to want to do an inspection of the apartment before you move in. If you can, try to see the exact apartment that you're going to be moving into and not just what is called a model. A model is a typical layout that the landlord keeps in perfect repair. A lot of times it is an indication of the apartment that you're going to be moving into as far as the layout. But if you can, look at the actual apartment so that you can make sure that it's in good repair at the time you move in. When you're inspecting the apartment, check everything. Test the water pressure, make sure you have hot water, check windows for locks, screens, check cupboards, check drawers for signs of insect or rodent infestation. Make sure that it's thoroughly clean before you move in. Pay attention to the end of lease requirements. Some leases require that you provide the landlord with 60 days or 75 days notice before the end of a lease that you're not going to be renewing it. That's something that you're going to want to make sure you understand and make sure you comply with. Again, that's something that our office can point out to you. Make sure you understand either before you sign the lease or shortly after you've signed the lease. Something else that you may face when you're moving into a rental unit is utility expenses. Most apartment complexes require that you put specific utilities into your own name. If you have not had utility service in your name prior to moving into your particular rental unit, a lot of utility companies will require a security deposit. If you're going to be sharing a rental unit with several friends, you're going to want to discuss with those people who is going to be the actual person that gets the utility service established in their name, and how the utility costs are going to be shared between you and your co-tenants. If you have roommates and you are signing for the entire rental unit along with your friends or co-tenants, one thing you're going to be aware of is if your roommates happen to move out, you may be liable for the full remaining rent, not just your proportionate share. Again, that's something that you're going to want to make sure that you get your lease to us so that we can review it and make sure you understand it. It's also a good idea to get renter's insurance. Renter's insurance will cover your personal property in the event of a fire or theft. It's typically not overly expensive. If you have car insurance, I would suggest that you get in touch with the same company that you have your car insurance with and talk to them about adding on a rental insurance policy. As soon as you move into a rental unit, it's always a good idea to take lots of photographs of the condition of the apartment at the time you moved in. Pay particular attention to any areas where you see mold, stains on the walls, carpeting, tears in screens, anything that is not in perfect shape when you move in. When you take those pictures, you're going to want to make sure that you have your timestamp and date stamp on, so that if at some point down the road you need to use those photographs as evidence in a court case, the photographs will show exactly the date that the photographs were taken and the time that the photographs were taken. Keep those photos in a safe place. If you can download them onto a computer or a flash drive, make sure you have a backup. Again, keep those in a safe place. When you move in and you're doing your inspection, you're going to want to make sure you provide your landlord with written notice of any repairs that are made. Do it in writing, don't just do it verbally. Make sure you give a copy of that to the landlord, and make sure you keep a copy of that for yourself. Any agreement that the landlord makes to do repairs has to be in writing. Verbal agreements are not going to be enforceable in a court if it gets to that point at the end of your lease or at some point during your lease. Any maintenance needs that come up while you are living in your rental unit, you're going to want to pay particular attention to your lease, because most leases have a specific policy and procedure for reporting maintenance requests. Make sure you do it in writing. Make sure you keep a copy of that for yourself. Texting is not recommended. I always recommend, if you have to communicate with the landlord, do it by email, because emails are easily printed out and show dates and times. If your landlord fails to do repairs while you're living in your rental unit, you still have to pay your rent. You cannot just stop paying your rent because the landlord's not repairing whatever happens to be required. There is a specific procedure that you can follow to force the landlord to do the repairs, and that's something that you should be calling our office to schedule an appointment to talk to us about, so that we can make sure everything is done in accordance with the laws of the state of Ohio. Approximately 75 days before your lease ends, you should call our office to schedule an appointment, so that again we can review the lease, answer any questions that you have, make sure that you're doing what you need to do before you move out. Before you move out at the end of your lease, you're going to want to thoroughly clean your apartment and do a walkthrough with the landlord if possible. Again, if you walk through with the landlord, make sure you keep a note of anything that is not in the same condition when you move out as it was when you move in. I would also suggest that you again take photographs of the interior of the apartment. Pay particular attention again to any stains, especially if there was any damage when you moved in and it's still there when you leave. Make sure you take photos of those areas, and again, make sure you have your date stamp and your time stamp on. Make sure when you move out that you provide your landlord with your forwarding address in writing. Don't just call the landlord and give them the address. It has to be done in writing. Within 30 days after you move out, if you have given your landlord your forwarding address in writing, the landlord is required to either return your full security deposit or give you an itemized list of things that they are deducting from the security deposit. When you move out, you technically still in possession of the apartment or the house until you actually surrender the keys to the landlord. Our office has a very good booklet that we've put together that has checklists, contains a lot of useful information for moving in and moving out of an apartment. You're welcome to stop by our office and get a copy of that. Our office is located in room 3504 of the Lancelot Thompson Student Union Building, and our telephone number is 419-530-7230. We're here for all of your legal needs. Call us if we can help you or if you have any further questions regarding this video. As stated in our disclaimer, the information contained in this video is for general informational purposes only and is not to be considered legal advice for your particular need. And it also does not establish a client-attorney relationship. Thank you and have a great day.